From WHYY, it is Hittin season. Hey there, podcast pals. I'm John Stolnis from The Good Fight. You can follow me on X and Blue Sky at John Stolnis. Coming up, the great Bichette deceit has graced itself upon the citizens of Philadelphia. Obviously, Phillies fans are in their feelings right now as the Bichette situation took a nasty, weird, unexpected gut punch of a turn on Friday morning when all signs seem to indicate that he would be coming to the Philadelphia Phillies on a long-term contract. Instead, Will Salmon of The Athletic shocks everyone by announcing Bichette to the Mets was later learned 3 years, $126 million. That's a $42 million a year average annual value. The Mets get the guy that really the only Phillies free agent that was out on the market that they showed any interest in outside of, Brad Keller and Adolis Garcia. I mean, a real free agent, a real big name guy. And it felt like the Phillies were going to get him. And at the end of the day, the Mets, their hated rivals in the National League East, are the ones who actually are able to land the free agent star infielder. So we're going to talk about this. We're going to talk about the fact that, oh, hey, by the way, also JT Realmuto re-signs with the Phillies almost immediately after the Bichette news came down, and we'll get into that a little bit. Also, we'll say our goodbyes to Ranger Suarez, who left for the Boston Red Sox this week. So Justin, Klugh, Liz Roscher here for this emergency edition of the podcast. We had to roundtable this one up because one of the more momentous days in recent Phillies offseason history. And Justin from Baseball Prospectus, follow him on Blue Sky at Justin Klugh, author of the forthcoming book, getting closer every day now, The Summer, the Cheap Wieners. So you want to make sure that you are pre-ordering a copy of that. Just I don't know, what's the best way to describe what you experienced today?
I don't know. Should I just get this out of the way?
That's why you're here.
Okay. I'm not really cool with this team right now. I'm not ripping my hair out, but I'm not feeling particularly great about this team today. I do just want to, I want to review if we can.
Let's do it.
So they dipped out on the Japanese players they were connected with.
Totally.
They gave another previously good outfielder $10 million. They improved the bullpen and then brought it pretty much back down to where it was immediately. They have their president of baseball operations not only get outmaneuvered by their biggest rival, but get in a weird public feud with their aging superstar who gave a lot of his blood to a guy named Dr. Josh, all while their best pitcher is on a recovery timetable covered in question marks because he has a blood clot in his shoulder. Then they found a way to make re-signing the catcher they pretty much had to re-sign into comparatively bad news to the potential Bichette signing. They went out of their way to suddenly legitimize. Their catcher, who thankfully they now have 5 weeks out from spring training, is also 35. And there's a pretty good argument to be made that they paid more than they had to for him. And speaking of money, hey, how about Matt Gelb's statement that they didn't have as much money to spend because of all they owe Nick Castellanos and Taijuan Walker? So let's get this increasingly fussy and ill-tempered Phillies team back to clear water. Hey guys, we didn't suddenly try to trade any of you based on plans we were pretty sure were going to work out, but then they totally fell through and now we have to look you in the eye. Hey Alec, we weren't trying to trade you again. Hey JT, we definitely didn't dampen your return by becoming front runners for Bichette out of the friggin' blue. Hey Bryce, not sure what you're thinking right now. Just seems like you're starting to move your eggs out of the baseball basket and into the wackadoo medicine basket. And it just seems like this ends with you eating fistfuls of gems you keep in your uniform pockets or something. So what I'm asking you is, can I please have some?
Like out of the DuckTales video game or something.
I agree. I want some of those gems. It's the only thing that can soothe, salve the wound right now. That is
it's an LSD dream. What is that?
That is a great encapsulation of this offseason thus far. Liz Roscher, editor of Sabres Baseball Research Journal. Follow her on X and Blue Sky, Liz Roscher. I couldn't have put it any better. Can you? Try. Put it better.
No, I don't think I can. But one thing I will say is that the discovery that the Phillies don't have enough money because they're still paying stars that, from signings that didn't go well is not true. There is money there. John Middleton just doesn't want to spend it. I just want to make that clear. The Phillies can have as much money as they want. There's actually no limit. They can spend as much as they want. The Dodgers are living proof of that. The only reason they're not doing it is because they don't want to spend money. And as long as they're not going to spend money, as long as they're going to shy away from all of that, then they are not a team that wants to fully win. That's just the plain truth. If they're not going to go out of their way to make the team better at every single chance that they have, they don't want to win as badly as they say they do. And I don't want to hear John Middleton spout out some crap in the middle of the season like, I want to win, I want to bring my trophy back. Like, no, you don't. If you did, we would have a better team. You wouldn't be stressing about the money that you owe Nick Castellanos. You wouldn't be stressing about the money that you owe Taijuan Walker, or that you can't trade either of them. You know who doesn't worry about that? The Dodgers. The Dodgers don't worry about that. They're able to put together creative contracts that bring players to them. The Phillies, I think, are becoming too rigid in there, and I think that's a symptom of them not wanting to spend money. They're putting up obstacles in their own way to prevent them from spending money, to make it look like it's just the way things are happening. Like, it's not. John Middleton has the money. He is a multi-billionaire. Any team can put as much money, any owner can put as much money as they want into their team, as long as they're willing to pay the price, as long as they're willing to pay the luxury tax, which, yeah, it's a lot, but is it a lot if you win a World Series? John Middleton, after it happened, would probably say no. I'm so glad I did it. So why doesn't he just make that easier and start doing it so he can get to the point where he can say he doesn't regret it?
So
yeah, I
I'm
want
not
my
going to come in.
trophy back thing just gets stranger and stranger, considering the trophy hasn't been in Philadelphia for so long.
It's not his trophy.
Almost
His
20
trophy,
years.
We just got to drop that line. Yeah, that's
It's 2026. It has been
It's not
almost
time we
20
heard.
years.
When's the last time we heard from old John Middleton?
It's been a while.
It's been a bit. And I wonder why. I would love some of the writers to start asking more questions about why the Phillies aren't being better funded. Because that's what this issue is. It is a funding issue. And if it's a funding issue, they don't want to win. Oh, I'm so angry. I was not angry when I started the podcast, but now I'm angry.
Let me get into this a little bit, because I want to set this up for folks. And I assume most of the people listening kind of know all the numbers and everything that went down here, but it was reported by Bob Nightingale and John Clark, I think, from NBC Sports Philadelphia, also said something similar, that the Phillies essentially gave Bo Bichette what he said what he told them he wanted.
Oh, I love this part.
What's that?
I love this part. Keep going.
Yeah, that they agreed to Bo Bichette's request for a 7-year, $200 million deal on Thursday night, and that they believed they would sign him to that contract. And what I'm going to say is, like, I get the criticism, and I agree with you that John Middleton can spend money. He can spend any of his own personal wealth that he wants to spend on the baseball team. And I think he and his partners have done some of that. None of us know exactly how much of that they've done, but most baseball teams and baseball owners spend out of the revenue that they generate from the baseball organization and all that stuff. And right or wrong, that's how the business of baseball works. And I don't love it. It's not my money. I want him to spend as much money as possible to play in the same field as the Dodgers and the Mets. The Mets, after failing to get Kyle Tucker to agree to their short-term high AAV deal, just take 3/4 of that money and give it to Bo Bichette. And Bo Bichette says, yes, I would like to take 3 consecutive 1-year player-controlled contracts so that I can choose to re-enter the free agent market whenever I want to over the next 3 years. And if you've looked at the free agent market the next 2 years, he undoubtedly is the top free agent on the market next year and the year after that. So from a business standpoint, from Bo Bichette's standpoint, if you don't necessarily care, if you're not worried about an injury ruining the rest of your career, if you're not worried about the security of 7 years and $200 million and staying in one place, then this makes all the sense in the world. And you see with the Phillies, I think you hit the nail on the head, Liz. They have kind of an antiquated way of looking at player contracts. They still think that players are going to see more value in a longer contract, like Trey Turner did, like Bryce Harper did. They have data to back it up. The 2 biggest guys that they've signed, they got because they signed them to contracts that basically would finish off their playing career in Philadelphia. And if Bo Bichette's request was for a 7-year, $200 million deal, and they said, okay, here, And then he says, oh, sorry, you guys are going to hate me for this. But, I just heard from the Mets and they want to give me $42 million and an opt-out after every year. And the Phillies don't do opt-outs, which is a conversation we should have here tonight.
Right now.
It's, it's part of the antiquated nature of their contracts that they refuse to do that. That's what these big guys want. They want opt-outs after year 3 or year 4 or whatever to test the market. And
Bryce Harper was of the previous generation of players, and he was, at the time, kind of a rarity for wanting something that long with one team. Like, this is not the norm, and the fact that they haven't realized that is really frustrating, or that they just refuse to realize it. I'm sorry, John, I interrupted you, but I had to get that out.
No, I think John Middleton and the Phillies ownership, they spend a lot of money. They're willing to spend a lot of money. They're not willing to spend money in a certain way at the moment. But I mean, they were willing to give $300 million plus to Yoshinobu Yamamoto a couple of years ago, Justin.
I feel like they were willing to spend money. It's starting to feel like they're less willing to spend more money.
Yes, thank you. That's exactly right.
They're less willing to. They're less willing to throw money away on attack.
Yeah.
But that's not.
Right.
No,
and
I don't buy it.
They did have the deals. They wanted to get Bichette, and they were willing to spend
John,
that money.
you're treating it like a salary cap.
They were willing to spend on Yamamoto. But it just feels like, I mean, Dombrowski missing on a player like this was also noticed, and that's a more reputational thing. But end of the day, it just feels like if you're not, is there really a difference if you're not willing to spend the money, or if you can't get people to take it? They're still not playing for your team. So I guess that's more of the issue. Because to backtrack what I said, they do seem to be willing to offer people big deals. They do. They just have not successfully landed Bo Bichette or Yamamoto or,
They have to modernize. I think it's just that simple. They need to recognize what the younger generation of baseball players want, and they just aren't good at that because they haven't had to go outside for a younger player. All their players are older. And the players that they look at tend to be a little older, and they tend to be in deals, and so they're not looking for that type of freedom at the moment. So the Phillies just have at least Dombrowski specifically has absolutely no experience in dealing with a player like that. I mean, maybe not none. I certainly don't know, but it seems like he just had no idea that a player could want more per year with less years.
And in the matter
it was foreign.
In the matter of opt-outs, it really just comes down to you can offer a guy a deal, and if another team's offering him the exact same deal but with opt-outs, he's gonna pick that team. And that's it. So you got to be at least open to the idea.
So I premised this on the idea that it was a smart move by Bo Bichette to choose the Mets deal over the Phillies deal. Is that you guys agree with that assertion that is it smarter for a player? Or I mean, I guess it's an individual player's preference, but in my mind, 7 years, $200 million, that's great security. That sets you up for, $42 million is going to set you up for life too. I mean, let's not kid ourselves here, but 7 years guards against any of the unforeseen things that can happen in baseball. And Bo Bichette has missed time to injuries, over the last couple of years too. So, and he's, I don't know, going to play for the Mets over the Phillies. I as a Phillies fan, I don't understand it. I think even most Mets fans wouldn't understand it at this point. Really, that's you're going to that situation over Philadelphia to kind of just test the market again in a year. I just it's.
I don't think he will. I think that this is taking that deal with the Mets was the smartest thing he could do because he's got control over his future for the next 3 years, and that means he can choose to stay with the Mets for another $42 million next year when there's absolutely going to be a massive and lengthy lockout. And he could stay for another year if he wants, depending on how the market looks. But he can also choose to leave. I think what these players want more than anything is freedom. They don't want to be tied up for a long time anymore.
Yep.
They want freedom. They want flexibility. Who knows? Things can change in a city on a dime. Right. A player can go from beloved to hated instantly. And I think some players feel that more than others, whether it's, widespread or not. I think that does influence some players' decisions where they move. Like, things could change in a minute. I want to be able to go where I want to go.
We've seen for some players that is absolutely their priority and how they're most comfortable. That's how they operate. And for other players, they want the long-term deal. Aaron Nola wanted the long-term deal. Now, as a pitcher, it's a little different, I think, than a position player. You want to give I think most pitchers will take the long-term deal. But, who knows? We'll see. If Tarek Skubal reaches free agency, we'll see. If when Paul Skeens reaches free agency, we'll see. I mean,
Tarek Skubal's going to reach free agency because his team already doesn't want to pay him.
I have no doubt that that's going to happen. So we'll kind of see how that goes. But so Bo Bichette goes to the New York Mets. He's going to play third base for them. I'm trying to remember the last time really any target in an offseason for any Philadelphia sports team, let alone the Phillies, caused me this much disappointment that they didn't land him. Like, I'm trying to remember the last Phillies player or the last player that the Phillies were targeting that it really seemed like there was momentum that they would get that they didn't get. I mean, we've done it to other teams.
Michael Bourne.
A guy who a week and a half ago you didn't even think had a shot at coming
I said 0% chance. I said, this is the funny thing. It's like 2 weeks ago, this wasn't even a kernel of a possibility in my brain. I came on this podcast 2 weeks ago, said 0% chance that Bo Bichette would become a Philly because everybody started to talk about it, speculate about it. Zero, and then we all got, and I guess that's the other part of this. We all started hearing all of the reports coming in. The Phillies obviously met with him on Zoom. Maybe that should have been our first clue, like a Zoom meeting for your first initial,
honeymoon
to know you meeting. Like I don't know there may have been circumstances that necessitated a Zoom, but normally these things are face to face. Normally.
Do we even know if he visited the Mets?
He was on his honeymoon, wasn't he?
Was he on his honeymoon? Yeah, it's trying to squeeze in a Zoom with the Phillies on your honeymoon, man. Come on. I mean,
the meeting doesn't matter, I don't think, because we have no idea if he met with the Mets in person, He
did. They said they met with him at the winter meetings, and then they met with him earlier this week. And that was prep work for this, in case this happened.
Well,
we go.
When you get, it's kind of like when someone comes to your house to sell you windows. Like, you never agree. I never agree to an in-home estimate on anything because it's not just, they're not just going to come in. Yes, you have no idea how
climbing through the windows. Okay. He doesn't have any windows.
Yeah, it's very cold right now in here. But you have no idea, like when you invite someone to your home for an estimate on like a leaf guard for your gutter or for windows, somebody trying to sell you something, you invite a salesman into your home.
This is a baseball podcast.
Yeah, baseball. Just wait for it. You keep interrupting me. Just wait for it.
I'm sorry. It's rude. I'm sorry.
Please. So when they come into your home, they're not just here to show you, hey, here's what we got. Does anything interest you? No, well, just take your time and think about it. Like, here's my card. Here's my number. No pressure at all. This is a great product, but you've got a decision to make. So they come in and they start giving you the hard sell. They start telling you all the discounts you can get if you get those windows right now, only today. Like, if it's a same day visit, then you get 30% off the windows, and it's maybe $3,000 more than you were willing to spend. But if you don't get this deal now, it's going to go away. Like, they do everything they can to not let you leave that room without signing a deal. That's what a salesman does when they make a house call. And that's why an in-person meeting, they always say, don't let them leave the room. It's a metaphor. But really, like, if you meet with someone in person, you can actually kind of get down to stuff right away if you find that there's some mutual ground there. And the Phillies did it on a Zoom meeting. You can't keep them in the Zoom call. Essentially, they can hit a leave button and they're gone, right? So that's part of it. And then the other part of this is all week long, the national reporters just kept feeding us that, hey, they're the Phillies are the front runners, the Phillies are this, the Phillies are that, all these other suitors are dropping out. I can't imagine it's not going to be the Phillies. Do you guys think, was this either a mistake or an error in negotiation by Middleton and Dombrowski, maybe going too slow, not getting this done before Kyle Tucker signed his contract? Or do you think this was Bichette and his agent slow playing the Phillies? Do you think Bichette and his agent ever really were serious about coming to Philadelphia? Were the Phillies played?
I don't I don't think they were played. I don't think they look particularly good here or smart here, but like I think it was more of what you guys were talking about, which is that they just didn't understand what he wanted. I mentioned those times the Mets met with him. That's how they knew he was into the idea of a short-term deal. Will Salmon and Tim Britton had that in their write-up. That's how they knew he would be into that idea. And it just feels like the Phillies are like, well, we're always willing to give more years. That's like our special thing when you come to Philadelphia.
To lower the AAV, to lower the luxury tax
but just
problems.
not registering that like that wasn't that things are a little different now. And they just, I don't know, it just didn't click, or they weren't willing to offer that. And whether it was a mistake or they just chose not to offer a deal like that, you know, both didn't result in him coming here. So I think it's more of a mistake in that regard. I don't know if it's as much the Phillies getting played and that he like never intended to come here. Like it feels kind of real that like the Don Mattingly draw was part of it. I'm not saying the Phillies hired him or brought him in to entice Bichette specifically, but like I think there's a real connection between those two guys that was like a real thing that could have brought him here. But yeah, I think it's mostly about the Phillies just seeming kind of unequipped to operate in a more modern free agent market.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that. I just wonder if the reporting that he said to them 7 years, 200 million was what he wanted, whether that was honest or not, you know, whether that was really what he wanted. And maybe Liz, this truly was a last minute swooping in by the Mets. Maybe this really was just, you know, the Mets weren't really kind of in the conversation until they lost out on Kyle Tucker officially. And then they swoop in with a deal like Justin was saying at the winter meetings they had talked about and knew that he would be open to. I don't know. What do you think?
That seems the most likely scenario. I'll admit it does feel a little bit like a work. I think it can be, I think some of this can be intentional without it being outright malicious. Do you see what I mean?
I do.
I think he wanted a shorter deal with more years, but there wasn't anyone there to give it to him at the moment because the Mets were still waiting for Kyle Tucker. And so he took what he thought was the best. And then I think there was some layering on from the media, and I think that was probably encouraged by his agent somewhat. And it felt like it almost became a self-fulfilling prophecy. Like the Phillies were reported to have interest, and then it seemed like they developed more interest in him after the report. I don't know. It's all real murky.
I mean, you know, I'm emotionally raw here, and we're taking a cheese grater to my nerves in some cases, so my opinions are kind of like moving all over the place here. So now I'm thinking, if he told them what they want, if he said he wanted that and that's what they offered him, then how can you blame the Phillies in this case at all? He didn't come back and say, all right, well, the Mets said this. Do you want to match it? Or at least it hasn't been reported.
No, and I think they knew that they don't do opt-outs and that they were not able to do an AAV of $42 million.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, I don't know if they intended to play them off each other, but I think the Mets probably called and said, what would it take? And they revealed at that point that they had an offer from the Phillies and it was this much. And they're like, what can you do? Can you do better? And because they knew that he had a preference for a shorter deal at a higher annual value, they gave him just what he wanted.
See, I just keep wondering, like, they got to the number that they wanted. How did they just not lock it in? Like 7,200. Yes, 7,200. Good. Let's do it right now.
Sign it right now.
Why did he have the time to even hear?
Why
from the
was
Mets?
there an overnight?
Yeah, that's what I want to know. And we'll never know. But I'm sure that came at his request. But I just, because the Kyle Tucker thing broke overnight as well. So, it could have been something where Bichette said, I don't want to sign before Kyle Tucker signs, or we know what's happening with Tucker. And, maybe they had this kind of in place a couple of days. When we came on last Monday night, we were talking about this. I was like, yeah, they're going to we're not hearing any rumors about the Zoom meeting. They're going to get this done tomorrow. Like, I really anticipated, because we're in mid-January. This isn't November. These things got to get done now. And I thought, yeah, okay, they're going to put their pedal to the metal and they're going to get this thing done if it's going to happen, if it's going to be serious. And then it just kind of kept going for a day. with every passing day, you're like, it's more certain it's going to be the Phillies now. And then these suitors, the Red Sox signed Ranger Suarez, and so that takes them out of the picture. And the Mets seem to be going after Kyle Tucker, and the Blue Jays are too. But the Blue Jays have signed a bunch of guys. I don't think they're going to go after Bo. I don't know. It's the most disappointed I've been in not landing someone that I can ever remember. And I didn't even have, like you said, any thoughts that we were going to land Bo Bichette this time 2 weeks ago.
I was trying to think of some things that would be really funny right now. The first one was them not getting Realmuto even after losing out on Bichette, but then obviously that came through 10 minutes later or whatever.
We'll talk about that, yeah.
It'd be really funny if they were like, the Red Sox media was like, they have Ranger Suarez now, so they have some starting pitchers they could deal. It'd be really funny if the Phillies let Ranger Suarez go to Boston and then made a deal for some crappy starting pitching that they're getting rid of because now they have Ranger Suarez, or the Mets signing Harrison Bader just as another fun little
that's
not out of the realm of possibility.
That's totally possible, completely possible.
They are rumored to be one of the teams.
So angry. I'll be so angry. He was the one guy I really wanted them to re-sign. It felt like there was a minimal downside to it, and they have just done almost nothing this offseason that has made a lot of sense to me beyond re-signing Kyle Schwarber.
I want to say this just because, why not? So obviously Bo Bichette's appeal is big. It's right-handed bat, consistently high batting average. He loves being a tough out with 2 strikes, he says. Will Salmon and Tim Britton wrote the story up, and in their write-up they said that New York believes Bichette can handle third base because of his good hands, even though he's never played the position professionally, which we knew because we discussed how the Phillies would reshuffle, and they were willing to, they said, to acquire him. But whoa, I thought the Mets were hyper-focused on defense this offseason. That's why they went after Marcus Semien. That's why now they're starting a guy at a position he's never played. When it turns out that defensive mispositioning and miscommunications is what led to the conflict between Francisco Lindor and Jeff McNeil and some of the cantankerousness in the Mets clubhouse. And now the new guy's going to come in and play a position he's never played before. I mean, he did switch positions in that World Series, but contrary to what a lot of people think, the infield positions aren't just the same position closer to first base. There are intricacies that make them challenging for someone who hasn't played them before. So I will say that this does seem to go a bit against the Mets' stated philosophy for the offseason, and Matt Gelb characterized the Mets as desperate after losing out on Kyle Tucker. So it does kind of feel, if you want any kind of silver lining here, it feels like perhaps the Mets were anxious. And it is the first objectively cool thing they have ever done in sticking it to the Phillies. They really just stuck a knife in their side.
Credit to
there.
them. Listen, credit to the Mets.
You got to give credit there.
Credit to the Mets.
But as far as this working out for them, again, totally. So it's Bo Bichette. It could totally obviously work out for them. But this little setup they're doing here is also quite possibly not. It could be a culmination of some issues that are still lingering from the last infield, I suppose, that could create future issues for them. It's something to at least point at.
Yeah, no, and you're right. This doesn't automatically make the Mets on par with the Dodgers or necessarily even on par with the Phillies. I mean, they've had objectively, by most observers, an awful offseason so far, and this is one of the few things that I think have gone their way so far this offseason, and it's not over. They're still looking to add more pitching. They didn't get Ranger Suarez, which is fortunate, I think, for Phillies fans. That would have been even worse.
Yes, and the monkey paw curls.
That's right.
Yep.
So let's move on to the next part of this. The reason this is an emergency podcast, and that is, in fact, mere moments after and we all knew this was coming. You could feel it. You just knew it was going to happen within the same hour or two after the Bo Bichette news came down. The Phillies announced that they have re-signed JT Realmuto to a deal. The numbers are eye-opening. 3 years, $45 million, with a chance for that deal to go to $60 million. There's a $5 million escalator each season if he meets certain benchmarks. So a 3-year, $45 million deal for their catcher, who, as Justin has said, is 35 years old, will be 36 this year. So it'll take him through his age 36, 37, and 38 seasons at $15 million a year. This feels to me like a drastic overpay for a player who appeared to have no market outside of Philadelphia. I thought if they were going to go 3 years, it would certainly be for an AAV under $15 million. I had 2 years, $30 million. I had 15 AAV as a number for JT, but not for 3 years. I can't believe they did 345 for JT Realmuto. And yet they did. And it's kind of funny. I understand why the Phillies social media has to do this, but there's like a big celebratory boast of the JT Realmuto signing 3 years, $45 million. Again, if this had happened like 3 weeks ago, before any of this Bichette stuff started, we'd be like, that's an overpay for JT Realmuto. But you know what? It's good he's back. Given everything else that was out on the market, this is like their number 2 priority after Kyle Schwarber. We're bringing the band back together, and nobody really likes it. But
don't say that.
What else?
I'm not doing bringing the band back together, and I'm not doing running it back this year. We're not.
What do we want to call it? Deja vu.
Yeah.
They have a team, and it is a team that is playing.
All right.
Creative, I know, but like they don't have to be anything.
The carbon copies.
The refill with a PH.
There it is. That's why you're here. So, 3 years, $45 million for JT Realmuto, Justin, feels like an overpay. I think, and also, so later in the day, Victor Caratini, the guy who the Phillies almost certainly would have pivoted to, signs a 2-year, $17 million deal with the Minnesota Twins. I would rather have JT Realmuto. This feels though like potential Castellanos, Taiwan Walker type deal that in year 2 and 3, you're going to be like, geez, this is really preventing us from doing anything we really want to do. But I don't know what you do at catcher in 26, 27. There's nobody there in the pipeline unless you are a real Rafael Marchand believer.
Well, I think there's just this big or series of big or just some aggressive moves and just shuffling and structuring that is almost inevitable. Not almost. It is inevitable for this Phillies team. And, like they don't have a future at the catching position still. Like they've got Realmuto for a few years, but like they don't, like you just said, they don't have a future at this position. So something's got to be done there, I would imagine. Some kind of thing to address that, like, hey, someday the Phillies are going to need another catcher, and you won't re-sign JT Realmuto at that point.
I don't think they can do any more. I think this is the last one, guys. I really do.
So, that needs to still be addressed. And what's he going to be like when he's back on the field this year? He's a catcher, like, look, I'm not, not like blaming the guy for having a decline, but he's obviously not the best catcher in baseball anymore. And there's a solid chance, there's historical precedent, certainly, that as he continues to get older in this stage of his career, that the production's going to slip. And you got to just hope the things that they value about him, like I guess, managing the pitching staff is still coming through. And that's a big deal because
good pop time, good arm, all that still. Yeah.
Of all the names we talked about this year, by far, he's the catcher you want back. It's not, I keep saying it's bad news. I'm saying that because it's funny. It's funny. That's what's so funny about this, is that this is what we all wanted, all of us, including me talking right now. But this whole Bichette thing, this like week-long spasm of Bichette that just happened and is now just so abruptly over, just created the framing that like JT Realmuto's back is like, okay, like, okay,
fine.
Great. I guess there was a little suspense because it was taking so long, but really everyone was like, there's not another team he's probably going to go to. And there's certainly not another catcher they'd be excited to get because it means they got a whole bunch of other work to do. So it was the best move for the position, but at the end of the day, it's really unfortunate that it had to happen this way because now everyone's like, great, that catcher we wanted is here. It's like it shouldn't have to be that way, but it is.
Go ahead, Liz.
I'm gonna say the overpay feels bad, but it's almost certainly uh yet another piece of the cost of the week-long Bichette distraction, because it's not like Realmuto and his agent didn't know what was going on. I think they made him pay like a little over what they wanted. They said, I mean, we could have said yes on Wednesday, but we didn't because we knew you were in the middle of doing something. Now we're going to take that third year, and instead of making it an option year, a team option year, it's going to just be another contract year. That's my thought, because it does seem like too much. I think he made him pay for making him wait, and for having and for going on a week-long vacation to Bichettville.
I mentioned this on X and in my Good Fight article that I wrote about all of this that happened on Friday afternoon. When the Bichette stuff came down, when that Will Salmon story came down, and I don't know, maybe JT Realmuto knew it was going to happen because all these agents are kind of plugged in. He probably had a sense. You just know him and his agent were sitting back somewhere in an office being like, huh. They had to have smiled when Bichette went to the Mets saying, who's on the phone? Who could be calling right now at this time? It's Dave Dombrowski. Well, I wonder what our old pal Dave wants right now. I mean, you just know the grins on their faces when this happened, knowing that they got to come crawling back to us now for this offer, for this deal. And I think you're right, Liz. I mean, there was rumor. I think I heard. I forget who it was now. One of the maybe it might have been Salisbury saying that originally Realmuto was asking for $20 million a year with this contract. He clearly wasn't getting that. But I'm betting the Phillies were at 230. I'll bet you that's where the Phillies were at. And although it was reported that the Phillies offered a 3-year contract earlier in the offseason, so maybe this was the starting point. Maybe 345 was the starting point. They said
I don't want to think about that. Do you?
No, I think it's I
think we have to, but
if JT Realmuto turned down a 3-year, $45 million contract at the start of the offseason, you have to really wonder if this man is living in the same parallel universe as us. Like
I can't imagine they offered that to start, because this is where they finished.
I don't know. You're probably right. I think the best line from Matt Gelb's article with regard to the JT Realmuto signing was when he said, quote, "The expectations for Realmuto at the plate will have to be readjusted as he enters the twilight of his career." Over under on how many games JT Realmuto bats clean up for the Phillies here in 2026. No, I'm setting the number at 25. You don't have to answer.
I feel like that's such a good bullseye. Like that's such a really good 25.
It's not going to be a lot,
gonna hit
but it's going
cleanup.
to be some.
Bohm's going to hit cleanup. It's going to be a carousel.
Depends on how flexible our friend Rob wants to be.
It's going to be adults.
We've seen him cling to lineups to the detriment of the team.
Well, he's going to try and whoever's hot, right? We're going to ride the hot hand.
Great idea.
Problem is the hot hand is hot for 8 days. Okay.
And you don't usually recognize he's hot until the third game.
until day 3. That's exactly
over.
Right. That's exactly right. All right. Do we have any more thoughts on JT Realmuto that we need to share?
I mean, I don't know. I guess I said everything I needed to say. It's not bad that he's here, but obviously it's just now everything just seems like it's not good enough.
That's really true. That's really true. I mean, I was okay with this offseason, not happy about it, but okay with this offseason before you called it a distraction, Liz, and I think that's exactly the right word to describe it, the Bichette distraction of the past week. And now everybody, and that's the thing, that's why Dave Dombrowski, I said it last week, Dave Dombrowski had to land the plane. He had to land the plane. He got it in our heads that he could come here. All of the reporters got it in our heads, and I'll never trust another reporter ever again. I'm just not believing anymore.
Oh, John, don't say things you don't mean.
It's totally fair. What national reporter is really a paragon of journalistic virtue? Really? Come on. In baseball, the same 3-4 guys. Come on. It's okay to not trust them right now.
Frankly, it's the ones who don't go with the rumors, right? The ones, the ones who are just reporting on the game and not like doing the rumor thing are the ones that you probably should be paying attention to. I gotta stop getting sucked in by the rumor of the moment, Gotta get off. I was on TweetDeck
keep your
way
eyes
too
on
much
the
this
beat
week.
writers.
Yeah, man. Ken
Right.
Rosenthal saying that the Phillies were the top, the top or whatever, like they had the best chance. That's when it changed a lot of people's minds. And yeah, your point is, your point is totally correct that he had to land the plane, because you can probably look at this like it's zero in and find a bunch of ways why, like, yeah, I mean, like the numbers don't indicate Bo Bichette's going to succeed in the way the Mets want him to, and look at these stats and like things. You can find a bunch of ways to probably statistically show that this is not like the worst thing in the world. But the thing that's going to create the biggest stir is the optics of it.
Yes.
Which are just bad. They are just really bad for the Phillies. From the Dodgers kind of being involved to like they signed Kyle Tucker. So like they're still doing Dodgers stuff and they're still moving forward with their model that they're the only ones using, where it's just like, yeah, the point is to keep feeding the monster, not to stop and not go to the playoffs for 10 years. And that they got by the Mets of all teams is like, yeah, that's another added sting. And that it feels like the guy that came to Philadelphia and Dave Dombrowski, who's like this legend in what he does. And now you're just like, oh man, and now this guy's losing out on people he's zeroing in on, and he's not supposed to do that. And he's kind of getting, I used the word outmaneuvered earlier. Like all of it just looks bad for the Phillies. Like of all the good teams, they now look they're the kind I was making fun of the Red Sox last week for the odds that they were going to miss out on all four of the top bats. Phillies are in the same boat now. Bellinger's still out there. You want to add another lefty bat? No, he's having a staring contest with the Yankees. So obviously that's not going to happen. And Gelb said Alec Boehm trade is unlikely, and any new position player is unlikely. So you're just kind of here now, and it looks bad.
This is it. I mean,
it looks bad in comparison to the other top teams. Sorry,
right.
Again,
right. I mean, at the end of the day, the Phillies are probably still a 90 to 92 win team. I do think they're not as good as they were, at least on paper, a year ago. And I think that's what's disconcerting, right? The starting rotation without Ranger Suarez doesn't look as strong as the one that entered the 2025 season. You don't know what you're going to get from Zach Wheeler. You don't know if Aaron Nola can bounce back. You feel pretty good about Christopher Sanchez and Jesus Luzardo. And Andrew Pater's a big mystery. I love the talent, and he certainly could be a top of the rotation starter at some point. Just it's unlikely to happen in his rookie season in 2026, and we don't know how many innings he's going to throw this year. So
here's something else real quick.
Yeah.
They are, Dombrowski has the quotes about like, we got to get the farm system and the young players involved. Like it's imperative. It's got to happen. And then they like suddenly go on a side quest to bring in this free agent who plays this kind of position of one of these top prospects. And I'm not saying that they would have found a way if they wanted to get these guys, keep everyone they wanted to keep. I guess what I'm saying is you're going to hear them say that again. They're going to say like, we're investing in the young guys. Like that's our focus, when clearly it wasn't, because they were like all about signing this free agent who again is a young guy at 27, but still they were like taking another route. It just felt like they said, this is the idea. This is what we're focusing on. This is what we're going to do. And then, oh wait, hang on 1 second. Okay, that didn't work. Never mind. Yeah, we're sticking with we're investing in our young players and the farm system and everything. I don't know. It just kind of shows that like you're not as slick as you thought you were.
I think that's fair. I will say too, most Phillies fans are kind of in the same place that we are right now. And for those of you watching on YouTube, my camera died, so switched over to a new camera. So that's why things are looking a little weird.
I saw that happened, and I got right through it.
Rolled right through it. That's why we have done this for a long time. But for there's a lot of Phillies fans are feeling the same way that we are. There's just profound disappointment. It's still a good team. It's still a team that will be one of the better teams in the National League. They might not be the best team in the division, but they might be. They might still be. You see what the Dodgers are doing, and it's a little disheartening to see them continuing to add. But you also realize they're not impervious to losing. The odds of them winning 3 straight World Series are pretty small, actually. Like that hasn't been done in many, many years. I'm trying to remember the last time a team that had to be probably one of those Yankees teams, right?
Yeah, it was the Yankees in the 90s.
Did they win 3 in a row?
Yeah.
Okay.
And
So
then they lost in 2001, but they won in 98, 99, and 2000.
That's right. That's right. So the Yankees are the last team that did it. It's really hard, but the Dodgers have a great shot at doing that. But Phillies fans are in their feelings for a very, very good reason. Like this, the rug was pulled out from under everyone. It was a punch to the stomach. And
it was put under and then pulled out.
That's right. I wasn't prepared to stand on any rugs. I was standing on the hardwood floor next to the rug, and somebody picked me up and put the rug under my feet and said, stand on it. And then they went and they yanked it out from under me, and I fell down and I hurt myself. And so, yes, I'm feeling a little bit sad right now about this whole thing. So can people who don't feel anything like real emotions about sports, who are worried about people, is everybody still crashing out? Yes. Yes, and I'm going to keep crashing out for a little while, okay? I'm going to crash out for as long as I feel like it, because we're sports fans. This was built up that this is something that was going to happen, and it didn't end up happening. And that it's okay to feel disappointed and sad and angry and annoyed at your baseball team, especially a baseball team that appears to not be as good as it was last year when you once again fell short in the playoffs for the fourth year.
Amen.
So stop asking me if I'm done crashing out. I'll let you know when I'm done crashing out.
People asking you that?
Yes.
It happened today.
John, I know you want to be a nice person online, but you should go tell those people to jump in a lake. What in the world?
I'm sorry.
If you were out there saying that to John, please look at yourself in the mirror.
It wasn't necessarily directed at me. But it's asking the Phillies fans at large, writ large, are we done crashing out yet?
That's one.
You
of the,
can say the same thing to those people. They're awful.
One of the best parts of this is that now we're being observed and talked about like zoo animals because we're having a strong reaction to something. Like, hey man, this was like really messy and dumb, and in the end, kind of needless. So like, yeah, we're having a negative reaction to it.
Fan base, the only one that exists. Why?
I don't know.
Right?
I don't know.
Thank you. Our fan base is the one that we never get any credit. Even though we're really nice, we're much better than people say we are. It's really annoying.
Yeah.
There are more teams that do crappy things. You know who hasn't thrown anything on the field despite the Phillies being absolute butt the last few years? Phillies fans. They had reasons to throw things on the field. The team was bad and lost badly, and they were embarrassing in the playoffs.
In October, you're right.
That's what I'm talking about. They didn't throw a thing on the field. They just left because it was disgusting, and they didn't do anything like that. Other teams, not so much. Come on.
I have to say I enjoyed a post from Joe Ettinger of The Good Fight today where he relayed that listening to WIP, someone called in and said that they will be throwing batteries at Bo Bichette. And then the next caller said, we need to hire Tom Brady to be the quarterback coach.
Hey, listen, WIP gets a bad rap. Sometimes there's gold there, friends. There's gold in them there hills. I love it. All right, let's wrap up. If there are there any final thoughts that anyone has about what we have seen this past week?
Well, I'd actually like to ask the question, what could the Phillies do right now that would make you feel even a little bit better? Because having evaluated this question myself, I'm realizing there's kind of not something they could do to get you back up. But like, what could they do to make you feel a little bit better right now? I don't think they're going to do it, but what could they do?
I think they could trade for Ketel Marte. Without trading away Aiden Miller.
Okay.
I think, yeah, and I think there's no way they could do that. But finding a way to trade for Ketel Marte
didn't the Diamondbacks retract Ketel Marte? Isn't that what they said?
Pretty much. They've said that they're not going to trade him now, but if they got the right offer, I imagine they would get back into it. I think if you're asking me for like something that's realistic, no. I was going to say adding Harrison Bader, but no, that's not going to do it.
That would make me happy, but that's because I love him, and I think the Phillies should have signed him to begin with.
I don't know that it makes them. I mean,
no, they should have signed him earlier, and it would have made the team better.
Yeah, you could sign Framber Valdez, but he sucks as a person. Like, I don't want that guy on my team. So what else is there?
I was thinking what I wrote down was, acquire a starting pitcher, but also maybe extend Jesus Luzardo. But the truth is, I think they're out of options for this offseason and maybe out of targets, certainly on the level of a Bichette. I'm just not looking forward to being told at a press conference that this team won 90 whatever games last year, and this group is good, and these guys are good, and we're investing in the younger players to step up. This team has nothing to prove about how they play in the regular season. This team has dominated in the regular season. We know that. It has everything to prove about winning in the postseason. And the Phillies are just hoping, apparently, that, without Bichette, without any of that paying off, and without making, any of the changes we wanted to see, they're just hoping this time they get the bounces, they get the calls, they get the ball over the fence instead of in a glove without having added a significant impact player of any kind. So the Phillies are down. If you've got power rankings, I'd put them down, 6 to 8 spots. This was a miss. This was a big miss. It's kind of an embarrassing miss, regardless of how it works out in the end and what they were willing to pay. That this may be the right idea in the long run, and regardless of the order in which things happen behind closed doors. But at least right now, they look underwhelming and kind of silly. And they're going to have to play really well out the gate to intimidate anybody. Schwarber's here. That's good. Realmuto's here. That's the best option they had. I think ultimately we had settled into being disappointed with the sameness of this roster after 4 missed tries, and then through no fault of our own, we're jarred into some big potential news and are now back to where we were before the Mets. We're now back to where we were before, but now the Mets have dunked on us, and there's some doubts creeping in about Dave Dombrowski's ability to steer this team. All is not lost, but it's tough to see what we've gained, and very easy to see what the Phillies' top competitors have gained.
Well said. Liz, anything else to add?
I'm worried that the primary emotion that I and other Phillies fans are going to feel this year is just anger and disappointment. I feel like we're coming up on a really important year, and how things go from here are going to be really important for the future of the team, because Dombrowski missed big. It's embarrassing in the way that Matt Klentak, near the end of his reign, was being embarrassed by other teams. And if there's one thing that Middleton hates, it's his team looking like that, his team being embarrassed. And so this is a really important year, because we could see a regime change in less than 12 months. And so my big concern is that I don't want to spend the whole year angry and disappointed. And I just don't know. I mean, we started feeling a little disappointed last year at the start because the offseason had been so bad. I don't like that. I feel like I'm in the same place.
I agree with that. And I'll say one last thing myself. And that is, I think the vibes we've always talked about with this team, they weren't good anyway, like coming off of that horrific final loss to the Dodgers. And now you've got a fan base who's already disappointed, with a group of players who have to feel like they're Sisyphus pushing this rock up against a hill at this point, and everything seems to be going against them, and the rock keeps rolling down the hill on them. And then you've got a chance to add an impact player here, and you don't get them, and you actually get you get schooled by your division rival, who you're still probably better than, but you get schooled by your division rival. And so you, like you said earlier in the podcast, Justin, you've basically made it clear to Alec Boehm that you were ready to move him and replace him with someone. You were ready to tell JT Realmuto, pound sand, we have Bichette, and now, hey guys, you're both here. You wonder how all of this offseason affects the clubhouse, how it affects the locker room. I will say 2 things need to happen. They need to start, because there are no good free agents the next 2 years. They really need to start developing some prospects into really good players. Like this, enough of this nonsense with, a couple of 2-win players here, a 1-win player for a couple of seasons. You need to start developing these guys. Let's get it on with the farm system here. Let's go. Let's go. Because if you don't want to pay for free agents, if you want to play in the same water as the Dodgers and the Mets, then you better start building from within. Because you want to play the free agent game, you got to change the way you play the free agent game. And the second thing I'll say is, Bryce Harper, it's time to make this your team again. It's time to, you want to win a World Series this year, Bryce Harper is going to have to be the guy that really moves this thing. And so now the onus is it's squarely on him. I know they signed Kyle Schwarber to a big deal, and he's the MVP runner-up, and you've got these. Bryce Harper needs to get this done. Bryce Harper needs to go. Bryce Harper needs to move this thing. And I think that's the other thing here is like, you're not going to have that guy hitting behind you that everybody was hoping you would have. It's on you, man. So if you want this thing to go, it's on you to make it go. So
didn't want any opt-outs. You wanted to be here. You got upset when any kind of trade rumors were around. Okay, cool. If you're healthy, you're on the field, then be here. Let's be here.
You want that extension into the really late years of your career that the Phillies definitely don't want to give you? Win a World Series, and they will give you that extension. 100%. They'll even do probably, what is it, a personal services agreement afterwards? Make him like literally a Philly for life.
Yeah. Like, Turkey Hill and him and ice cream after him. I mean, it'll be great.
Do it. Yeah. Just do it. We know you can, and we're tired of waiting for it to show up again. I'm
Bryce
being
cream
nice.
Cone.
That's right. Bryce cream. We will have Bryce cream in Philadelphia, and it should have already happened, actually.
I'm so good at writing. Sorry, go ahead.
Make sure to check out Justin's forthcoming book, Summer of the Cheap Wieners. So you can get it there.
Bing.
Find that book, and also check out the Sabre Baseball Research Journal and follow all of our work. If you're watching this show on YouTube, a link to all of the stuff that we are doing and all that we have is at the bottom in the description of our YouTube link. So you can check our show out there. You can also subscribe to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever it is you get your podcasts. You can listen to Hittin Season each and every week during the offseason, and then we ramp it back up. 3 podcasts during the season. But we felt like we had to come on. We had to come on here on a Friday night. None of us has anything better to do on a Friday night than to come on and talk about this baseball team that is infuriating and sad and making us a little bit miserable here to finish up the week. But hopefully you were able to listen and just kind of share the feelings that you have with us, and we'll just we'll get ramped up for the rest of this offseason, which probably won't have a whole lot to do, but no.
Listen to Hittin Season, folks.
Hittin Season anyway.
There sure were a lot of instances of the word unlikely in that Matt Gelb article.
There were. So come listen to us as we speculate about the unlikely things that could happen for the rest of this offseason. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in. We'll talk to you next time right here on Hittin Season.